What is up, everybody? This is Pastor Derek with your Truck Cab Theology, and I just want to apologize for missing last week. We had a lot going on with the revival that we were planning, and it went great. A lot of lives were changed, and if you want to go back and listen to the messages, they're also on the YouTube channel that this podcast is connected to. But today I thought I'd talk about a hot topic going around right now, given everything going on in the world, and I just take a second to give a little take on it, and maybe not necessarily go the same route as some people are. Like, I'm not bringing up Genesis 12 where it says those who bless Israel will be blessed, those who curse Israel will be cursed, even though that is true. And but we are going to talk about the Christian response to Israel and our Jewish brothers and sisters. And today we're going to really look closely at Romans 11:18 through 22, which is a passage where the Apostle Paul uses the imagery of an olive tree to teach an important lesson about humility, faith, and God's ongoing relationship with our brothers and sisters in Israel. And let's begin with this core idea that Paul is addressing Gentile believers, not non-Jews who have come to faith in Christ. He warns them with these words in that passage: "Do not boast against the branches. You do not support the root, but the root supports you." See, the root in this passage represents the covenant promises of God and those given to the patriarchs like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The natural branches are people of Israel. The wild branches that have been grafted in represents Gentile believers. Many of us, all of us who are probably listening to this podcast, I don't know of any Jewish people listening to this. But Paul's message is clear that Gentile Christians are included in God's family, but they are not the foundation of it. They are brought into something that already existed. This should produce humility and not pride. See, Paul goes further and explains that some of the natural branches were broken off because of unbelief. At the same time, Gentiles now stand by faith, but then comes a strong warning: do not be arrogant, but fear. Why did he say fear? Because the same God who removed branches because of unbelief can also remove others who fall into the same condition. This brings us to a key theological principles: God's kindness and severity. Verse 22 says, "Consider therefore the kindness and severity of God." Severity toward those who have fallen, but kindness to you if you continue in his kindness. So what does this mean for how many Christians understand Israel today? First, the passage affirms that Israel still holds a unique place in God's redemptive story, that the root has not changed. The promises of God are not erased. Later in Romans 11, Paul even says that God has not rejected his people. Second, it calls Christians to reject any attitude of superiority toward the Jewish people. Historically, this has been a crucial correction. Paul is very direct. There is no room for boasting. Faith in Christ does not make Gentile believers better. It makes them recipients of mercy. And then third, it reminds believers that their standing with God is by faith, not entitlement. Just as branches were broken off because of unbelief, Paul urges Christians to remain in faith and humility. Finally, this passage leads many Christians to view Israel not with pride or dismissal, but with respect and sense of spiritual connection. The imagery of being grafted in suggests dependence on what God began long before the church existed. So in summary, Romans 11:18 through 22 teaches three major lessons. Number one, stay humble. Your faith is rooted in God's prior work through Israel. Number two, stand firm. Your place comes through faith, not status. And three, recognize God's ongoing plan. His story with Israel is not finished. There's going to be a day when many of our Jewish brothers and sisters come to faith in Christ. This passage ultimately points us back to God's character, both kind and just, and calls all believers to respond with humility, reverence, and faith. So with all that being said, here's what you got to understand. This isn't dual covenant. It's not two different covenants. No, there's still faith alone in Christ. Is the only way our brothers and sisters in Israel will get to heaven. But that doesn't mean that there are enemies. In fact, God still has a huge plan for them. We're believing for the salvation of our Jewish brothers and sisters. I heard one podcaster say it like this, Judaism isn't a false religion, it's a fulfilled religion. right? It's a fulfilled faith, meaning it was fulfilled in Jesus Christ. And we should urge our Jewish brothers and sisters. Now, poses the question, modern day Israel, do we support it? I believe so. Does it mean we have to support everything the nation of Israel decides to do? But we are called to support Israel and our brothers and sisters there in Israel. I hope that made sense. Miss y'all. See you again next week. Love y'all.